Hi, Period 4. I'm going to have you guys do the 4.3 assignment that you missed yesterday because of the assembly. I have the notes here that I filled out with another class, and I'm just going to kind of talk you through them really quick. They're also posted online where I post notes every day, so if you want to look at the printed out version of it, you also can. This video is also posted there. Here was just a warm-up. With this, remember there's 180 degrees in a triangle, and the exterior angle rule, we're like 75 plus 40 equals 115 out here on the outside for angle 1. With lesson 4.3, it's mainly about things being congruent. Okay, remember the congruence symbol is the equal sign with the wave over the top. And we're going to be looking at congruent parts of our polygons, which are going to be all the angles that match up and all the sides that match up. Which it gets to be a little bit annoying to have to sit and list everything out, but for your first 2 homework assignments, you're going to have to list out all the angles that match up and all the sides that match up, and then you're going to have to write something called the congruency statement. The congruency statement is this guy here. It'll have triangle, letter, 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 congruent, triangle, letter, letter, letter. If it's not triangles, it'll just have the 4 or 5 letters, the congruent symbol, and then the other 4 or 5 letters. When you write a congruency statement, the order of the letters is really important because the way that they match up shows you how everything is going to go. For example, we took this statement here and I just copied it over to this other page here, and we looked at how A matches up with H and B matches up with J and C matches up with K. And then you can do the same thing with the sides. The first and the middle side match up with the first and the middle here. So AB is congruent to HJ. Then B and C matches up with J and K. And A and C, the first and the last, matches up with H and K. So all of that information is in the congruency statement, but you have to write it out. All the lists, all the sides, and all the angles on the first couple homework problems. Okay. The marks are what are going to tell you when you're looking at your homework what matches up. So the single mark is going to match up with the single. Okay. Double with double, triple with triple. Same thing with angles. B has a single, J also has a single. So they're the ones that are going to match up. Here's just another example, except for it's a pentagon instead. Okay, just make sure you get your letters to match up as you go through it. When you're doing this, you can do the letters in any order that you want for the first part, but then in the second part it has to match up. Which brings up the point of what we were doing here. This is not a correct answer, this one up here, because C is supposed to match up with K. And here C is matching up with J, so that doesn't work. But this one down here, CAB is congruent to KHJ. That is still the correct way of matching things up. C matches up with K, A matches up with H, and B matches up with J. So that's still fine and okay. There's more than one correct congruency statement. For triangles, there's 3 different ways you can write it. As long as the letters match up from spot to spot, you're okay. But when the letters don't match up, you're not okay. So there's multiple correct ways, but there's also lots of wrong ways to do it. So here we were just looking at a picture and how the angle marks are done and then writing the congruency statement. It's easiest to use your angles and have the single mark, the single, and double and double. Also with this picture, notice that it got flipped over. So just because A is on the bottom left doesn't mean it matches up with Q on the bottom left. C is the one that matches up with Q. Make sure you read your directions. In your directions will often be the congruency statement like we have here. That will point out to you what you need to match up. So I know on the very bottom of your homework, I think problem like 13, 14, you look at the congruency statement and see what matches up to figure out what parts you match up together. Here, the P and the O are matching up for angles, so we figured out letter Y with that. And TP is matching up with NG, which we use to figure out the X after we plug the Y back in. With this problem here, it's a little bit trickier to look at the order of the letters because there's 2 angle Fs. Actually 3 angle Fs. There's the one on the bottom, left, the little one kind of up above it on the right, and the big one that goes around the outside. You have to look at it as a triangle to figure out what angle they're looking at. So if in this triangle here I kind of highlighted in blue the FHJ triangle, so when they say angle F there, they're talking about this one here. However, when they say angle F over here, they're talking about the one on the top here in red. Notice that F and F do not match up. When I'm talking about the red angle F here, it matches up with the blue angle H over here. So those are the two that I set equal to each other, and then you can just work them out. Same thing with sides. The first and the last match up with the first and the last. So FJ matches up with GH over here. So 2y minus 3 equals 2.5. The third angles theorem. This rule basically says that if you know two angles in a triangle, and you have another triangle where you have the same two angles, the third angle also has to be the same. Here's an example showing that using the 55 and 45, and we were showing how you're going to automatically end up with 80 on both of them. But the rule is still true even if you don't have numbers on the picture. If you have two angles that are the same and another two angles that are different but the same between the triangles, these two angles are also going to have to be the same. Here we're just looking at our properties again. Remember, the reflexive property, it's the same on both sides. The symmetric property, you switch the order. And in the transitive property, you have two statements. You cut out the parts that is repeated, and the first part is congruent to the last part. Work on your 4.3 homework. Warning, you do have some problems in there where you have to use substitution and elimination. Good luck.